Today we're gonna be going over this mountain falling in place effect that I saw in an Overcast music video. I'll have that link below if you want to check it out before watching the music video to kind of see what the effect's all about. I think it's a pretty cool music video. It's a simple effect, but if done properly, it can look really cool. You can do this effect with a lot of different objects, mountains, buildings, cars, signs, hills, just a bunch of different things. For the most part, it's pretty easy if you have a simplistic background, but if you guys have a little bit more complex of a background, I'll show you different ways that you can finesse using motion blur and stuff, kind of make it look a little bit better. That makes it a lot easier to mask out and use the content aware tool in After Effects. If you're new here, what I do is a lot of music video tutorial breakdowns, effects. This is actually probably going to be the last video you guys are seeing in this room. Actually, I'm going to be moving to LA the 1st of March, and I'm recording this a few days before I leave. So tomorrow I'm actually packing up all my stuff. If you guys are interested in any behind the scenes stuff, I'm going to be vlogging the whole trip down there and then my experience out there. So definitely be sure to subscribe. I noticed that I think almost 60% of people, I think a little bit more actually, are not subscribed to the channel. So if you're not subscribed, go ahead and do that. Basically do everything in the visually creative side of the hip hop scene. And I think I have a lot of cool content coming soon, as well as all the other tutorials that I have on my channel already. So there's plenty of stuff for you guys to learn. If you haven't already, like and comment. It really does help push my video in the algorithm and help get the video seen by people that actually want to see this, like music video directors, editors, just anyone that's a visual creative. Let's go ahead and shoot for 500 likes and 100 comments. You guys have been killing it recently, so that would be greatly appreciated if you took the time and did that. If you want to support the channel even more, you can go over to briandelmata.com, check out my website. It has a paper texture pack where you can get those paper rip effects and transitions they've seen people like Og and Lone Wolf do in their music videos. It helps support the channel, as well as you guys get some really cool high quality digital assets that you can use in your music videos. I have a tutorial playlist with almost 20 different tutorials on just the pack itself, so there's no shortage of effects you can do with the pack, and I'll have that linked below, as well as the website where you can purchase the pack. Follow me on the social medias, Instagram, join my Discord, a bunch of stuff. I'd like to stay as active as possible on all the social medias, interacting with you guys. So I'll have all those linked below, as well as my Twitch. That's pretty much it. Let's start breaking down the effect. I know I talked for a while a lot of times, but just want to get everything out there. Let's get into the video though. Here you can see the clip that I did. It's just the mountain falling into place. The normal clip is obviously just looks like this and the mountain's already there. And my version is it kind of zooms out and the mountain falls into place. I think it's pretty cool. You can add dust particles. You can add a bunch of different stuff to make it look a little bit better. But yeah, I'll be showing you that. Also, before we get into the video, I know my tutorials have been bland sometimes, like I'm almost like robotic in them. And that's because I just focus a lot. So I'm excited to show you guys the vlogs and show you guys a little bit of my personality, just a bunch of other stuff in the tutorials. I'm doing an effect and trying to explain it the best way for you guys to understand, as well as I'm also thinking of how to do the effect at the same time. So it's really hard to like add some personality into that. But I think that's like what the point of tutorials are anyways. So I'm just excited to show you guys a different side of me, and I'm definitely going to continue doing tutorials while I'm out there, but it's just going to be another step in the journey. So the first thing I did is I just found a clip where I wanted the effect to take place. Right here is where I want just a short B-roll scene of the artist out in the middle of the desert, and there's a mountain that I think would be pretty easy to mask out because I already did it. Then what I'm going to go ahead and do is right click on the clip and replace with After Effects composition. What that's going to do is it's just going to open up your clip in After Effects. That way, whatever you do in After Effects, if you save it, it will automatically do to the clip in Premiere. So it's kind of like linking them together. It's called a dynamic link, and I think that's a real cool and easy way to use two different of the Adobe programs together, and it's a lot better than just rendering it out and doing stuff like that. So if you guys are not familiar with that, that's how you do it. And it's going to ask you for file name. So I always try to be as descriptive as possible, especially if you're doing it multiple times throughout the project. That way you can open it up and change stuff later. And then we're just going to name this mountain falling tutorial. And then you're going to see your clip is in After Effects. And this is a pretty short clip. The first thing I'm going to do is go to the mask tool, zoom in a little bit using the scroll wheel, and then I'm just going to mask out where I want the effect to take place. So for here, I'm just going to mask out the mountain as best as possible. And once you go ahead and do that, I'm going to go to mask and then just click none, just so you can see everything and see what the mask looks like. And then after you make the mask none, I'm just going to go here and keyframe the mask path and then go to the tracker tool. If you don't see the tracker tool, you can go to window here and go down to tracker, click that, and it should open on the right hand side. You can go ahead and click play if you think it's going to do a good track all the way through. I like going frame by frame just to make sure that nothing crazy happens throughout the mask. For the most part, you can see it's a pretty good mask. And then going back into mask, make sure it has subtract. And then depending on your clip, you can either use content aware fill. I know for this case, it's just going to duplicate the mountain a little bit, and that's not what we want. We want it to be completely sky here. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is just a little workaround around that, and go ahead and click on your layer. And then I'm just going to go ahead and mask out a part of the sky over here. You can use content aware fill depending on your object or whatever, but I just know if I use content aware fill, it's going to make a part of the mountain come here, and that's not what we want. We want it to be completely sky, like the horizon's right there. So I just masked around our sky here. So I'm basically going to take this, duplicate this part of the sky, and move it over to the left. So then I'm just going to go to the tracker, go frame by frame, and then I'm going to go here, go into mask. You can go ahead and actually, you can delete the first mask if you duplicated it, and then I'm going to click add. And then if you turn that off, you can see it's just the sky right here, and that's exactly what we want. I'm going to go ahead and go to mask, make the path keyframed, and then you go to the tracker. For the most part, it should do a good job. If it doesn't track properly, you can just correct it by doing that. We tweak it a little bit, and then once that happens, I'm going to move it behind the layer because we want it to go behind the mask here, and then I'm just going to go ahead and go to transform and click on position and drag it here. I'm also just going to scale it up just a little bit. So then you can obviously, there's harsh edges here. So what I'm going to do is crank up the expansion so it gets pretty large, and as well the feather. That way you can see there's no harsh edges around where the mountain actually was. You can see that there's a little bit of issue here, but that's fine. We can just scale up our sky a little bit and replace it. And then I just try to line up the sky as best as possible with pre-existing sky. And you can see there's a little overspill here. We're going to have to fix that with a mask in a second. For right now, we're just working on keyframing the position of the background mask, or the sky in the background, so that it lines up like that blue lines up with the blue here, and it never goes out of frame either. So depending on your clip, it's going to be different, but basically what you want to do is just have it match and not mess up at all. And then once you go frame by frame and keyframe it, you can go ahead and play it and see what your sky looks like. You can see there's a little bit of jitter somewhere, but that shouldn't matter too much, honestly. When it comes down to everything, you can keyframe a little bit better, but it don't matter too much, like I said. And then since there's overspill here, what we're going to do is just duplicate the original clip layer and the mask around here and just have the ground part masked. So what I'm going to do is just go ahead and duplicate our layer, go here, delete the masks, and then you can see this is just the overall clip footage. And then what I'm going to go ahead and do is just go here and mask out the spots where we don't want it to spill over. And just like that, you can see that's where it's going to go over the clip so it doesn't spill over. And then I'm going to go ahead and track this frame by frame. I always like turning it to none when I track it, just so I know if there's any mistakes. For example, right here, maybe turn that down a little bit. And then once you have that all tracked, you can go ahead and turn on your other layers and then go ahead and click add. And now you can see you pretty much have exactly what you're looking for. Probably want a little bit of feather, and honestly, for the effect, that looks pretty good. There's a lot of different things you can do depending on your color. You can change the color of this if it doesn't match exactly. You can add some blur, a bunch of different stuff. But for our effect and what we're going to be doing, this is actually perfect. We will be able to hide all of this using motion blur and a bunch of different tools in a second. So then what we want is we just want the mountain masked out, just itself floating. So what you can do is you can go ahead and duplicate this, but since there's like a lot of masking and feathering going on here, when you duplicate it, there might be a little bit of gap. So what I like doing is just duplicating the whole overall layer one more time and making my own mask one last time. I think it's just a little bit easier. I'm gonna go ahead and turn off all the layers so it's not confusing, and it's not that much extra work, and I think it makes the overall image look a little bit better. So I'm gonna go ahead and just do up my mask again. For this one, you can get pretty precise. I think this one's pretty important about how the edges are, just because it's going to be floating in the sky and then falling down. And for this one, I actually go in a little bit into the ground, like I said, because there's that mask opacity here that might be missing. And when it's falling, you won't be able to tell that there's a little bit of the mountain that's like grass or whatever. So that's what I like doing. And then going to mask again, keyframing the mask, and then going frame by frame, making sure. I always turn it to none when that happens, just so I can see what it looks like if anything messes up. But that seems to be looking pretty good. I go back to the first frame, go to transform, and turn on motion blur. I think this is really important. And then go ahead and make sure you turn that mask on to add. That way it just has that. And then turn on all the layers back on. And if you drag the position up, you can have your mountain floating in the sky. I'm going to do like 3 frames maybe, and then keyframe the position, and then maybe go like 5 frames or something, and then have it fall. So you can just click reset, and you can see that it falls from the sky and goes back into place. I think that's a really cool effect. And if you want, you can actually go ahead and just move. I noticed that it was kind of had like a little bit of a gap there. So I'm just going to go ahead and retract this, and now you should see the mountain falls. And then I'm going to go ahead and just try to fix the edge of this a little bit, because it just looked a little weird. There we are. And then you can retract the motion of it. Even though it's falling, it should still be able to get the motion. So then you can see you have your mountain falling. And the motion blur is going to be depending on your composition settings. So you can go into here, advanced, and use your shutter angle. 180 seems to be good for my case, but you can go up higher. And what going up higher is going to do is just going to add more motion blur. But I think I like the way this looks. It kind of just floats for a few seconds and then it falls down. Some cool things you can do now is I like to pre-comp my layer and name this something easy, falling. And then also turn on the motion blur, add a new camera object and then zoom in, make it 3D and then zoom in and just have it so you can see the mountain or whatever. Then go ahead and go to transform, keyframe everything and go to when it hits ideally, and then just reset everything so it zooms back out. So you can go ahead and see what that looks like. It's looking a little weird because there's black bars. What I'm going to go ahead and do is just create a new adjustment layer, drag motion tile on just to have some black bars. And then I just made it something like 80. That way it just covers up the black bars that were already there. Probably not necessary in your actual footage, but I was just showing you guys what I did because it did look a little weird with the black bars being zoomed out. Then I'm just going to highlight all these clips, click F9. You can use the graph editor to make it look a little bit better. Also going to go into the pre-comp layer, go to the mountain, and do the same thing with the transform, just so it's a little bit smoother. Like I said, you can go into the graph editor, play with it. I'm going to go ahead and actually just make it fall a little faster at the beginning and slow down. It's not really realistic, but I just think it looks cool. And go to our mountain layer, and then I'm also going to go and use Sapphire Shake and just have it shake a little bit when it hits the ground. You can do this manually if you don't have Sapphire Shake by just adding a little bit of movement to the transform and the position when it hits, but for me I'm just going to go ahead, keyframe the frequency and amplitude on when it hits. I'm gonna just have frequency 1 and then amplitude maybe like 2.5, and then go a frame before and then frequency 0. That way it's not shaking at all. And then it should add a little bit of shake on the actual hit of the rock hitting the ground. And you can see here, it looks a little weird in my case because the black bar is bending up because there's an actual black bar underneath it. But if you didn't have the black bar on the actual clip, then it wouldn't look that weird. So I'm just gonna go ahead and click it up to 80. That should cover it up. And then obviously the logo looks a little weird, but again, you wouldn't have the logo if it's your actual footage. But I think that's a pretty cool effect. You can add a lot of different things like dust overlays, dust particles, a bunch of different stuff to really sell the effect. You can have the ground cracking. This is just a pretty simplistic tutorial on how to just make something disappear behind an object and make it look like it's coming back into place. You can do this with people, a bunch of different stuff like I mentioned earlier. If you did make it all the way to the end, I really do appreciate you. Thank you very much. If you haven't already, like, comment, and subscribe. Go ahead and do that. It really does help push my content to other people that want to see it. Like I said, guys, this is probably going to be one of the last tutorials that you're going to be seeing in this room, if not the last. Definitely really excited to go out to LA and share my experience with you guys. So if you guys could be rocking with my vlogs and just a bunch of different content that I'm going to be putting out, I know it's going to be different from the tutorials, but I would appreciate it if you at least checked it out, see if it was something you're interested in. That's pretty much all I got for you guys in this video.